Welcome to the Live Alive podcast. So, we ended the last episode by challenging ourselves and the entire Live Alive community to really ask this question, what do I want?
Yeah, and I've actually talked to a few people since the first episode with Bob Goff, and I've recognized that it can be really inspiring to listen to someone like Bob Goff, but it also can feel debilitating as well. You know, a lot of people are feeling lost in life. They feel like they're on a path that's not leading to anywhere, and they don't know what they want.
Yeah, and so this is a place we want everybody to know you can be here and not have it all together and not have it all figured out. And that's kind of what this is about. So for part 2, we're going to hear even more wisdom from Bob, but we're going to have a break right in the middle and try to reverse engineer how he lives and look for some of the clues into what the abundant life looks like at our station.
Yeah.
And apply it to our lives.
And Bob Goff, he's the consul to Uganda, the leader of Love Does, right? He lives this amazing life of whimsy and adventure and fun, and he's just a lovable guy, right? But I think it's really important to remember that before all of this, he spent 30 years as a construction lawyer. And I don't know that much about law, but I can imagine construction law is not that fun.
It's not very sexy either.
Right? But Bob Goff spent 30 years becoming who he was made to be. And that gives me a lot of hope as I listen to him, that we're on this journey together, figuring it out, and we don't have to be exactly like Bob Goff right now.
So let's jump back into the story, into the adventure with Bob as he shares more wisdom with us.
Let's do it.
Jesus tells the story of the guy who goes next door and at midnight is like banging on the door and the guy's like, go away. And he just kept coming back and coming back. And it's just taught me that God really likes persistence.
Yes.
And but what's funny is we have a friend, her name's Judy, and she's been following the Lord for a long time. And she says, Jesus and I agree on almost everything now, except for timing. I wanted it my timing.
Timing. Timing is everything. Yeah, but I totally get that. I love the idea of persistence, but it's one thing to be obsessive about that, to like obsessive, have a very myopic view of your faith in your world, to just say, God must be doing something different in somebody else's life than he's doing in my life right now. When things don't go right. Right, the story of Jesus rowing across the lake, and he jumps out, and the crazy guy is there, and all the crazy goes into the pigs, and they run off the cliff. I can imagine the conversation he had with his wife that night. He's like, honey, how was your day at work? He's like, well, remember the crazy guy? When Jesus jumped out of the boat, he's not crazy, because what was a great day for the guy on the other side of the lake was a lousy day for the pig farmer, right? It was even a worse day for the pigs. And so one of the things that I realize in this whole idea of timing is that when something really nuts happens in my life, it didn't turn out the way I was hoping, I just hope something awesome is happening in somebody else's life, because he was certainly impacted. So the farmer is standing in the field, and he's praying for rain, and the wedding coordinator is standing on the grass nearby praying for sun. And you can't have both. I mean, you could wish it both ways, but sometimes when it doesn't work out, I'm just wondering. It's not wishful thinking. It's following the teachings of Scripture that God is doing different things in other people's lives than he's doing it in mine. And so when I meet somebody disagreeable, I just assume he's doing something different in his life than he's doing in my life right now.
One of the things that we are hoping to do with this podcast is to continue to pursue people who are living the abundant life. And so we're wondering, who are a couple of people that have inspired you along the way?
Oh, the most inspiring guy right now is the guy in Hawaii that pressed the wrong button. There's a missile inbound to Hawaii, and I have people who work for me in Hawaii. Becky, right? She's literally putting all the non-perishables in the suitcase. So the direction today was to find the guy and offer him a job. Like literally, because this was his worst day of his life.
This is the guy who pressed the emergency system for a
saying
missile?
there's an inbound missile into Hawaii and
oh my God,
flee. So he really had a bad day.
Yeah.
Right. But I just and sincerely, like literally, if he's no doubt looking for work, I'll hire him.
And maybe legal
it's only up from there.
Yeah.
Really, once you've experienced that day, you can't make a mistake that bad anymore. So find people on their worst day and engage them with love, where he's obviously got to be just mortified at how yesterday turned out for him. But that idea to find people on their very worst day and then celebrate it like he just won the Super Bowl, like he was the guy that caught the touchdown pass. So to just seek people out, and it's that reverse economy that Jesus talked about all the day. So literally, I think I said if we can't find out if they haven't released his name yet, send it to his supervisor because we know who that is, and say, "But pass it along, man. You got a job."
That's so cool.
Literally, I got an office in Oahu. You're set.
That's so cool. Yeah.
So if we could do that same thing in our faith communities when people have failed big, and instead of being courteous and distant, to actually be engaging. In the Deep South, they say, "Bless your heart." That don't mean good things. Actually,
We actually talked about that today.
Somebody said that to me, and I told Maria about it. She's like, "Oh, honey, you just got shanked." Like, so the whole idea to actually mean these things and rush towards people that have messed up, and I'm not rushing towards them so he'll turn into a Christian. I just want him to know that he's still accepted and valued, and even though he will be spoken of for decades, generations to come.
Man.
To know that on the second day, I got a letter offering me a job. And it wouldn't even matter if he knew my name, just that if he never calls and takes me up on it, to know, I'm not kidding. That's what the letter said. I'm not kidding. You've got a job. Here's the address. Show up.
Wow.
So something you've just started doing that I honestly don't really know what it is, so I'm eager for you to tell us more about it. But it feels very parallel to something that we're passionate about with all of this, is your Dream Big framework and your Dream Big conferences.
Oh, yeah.
What's the inspiration behind that? What is that?
Oh, yeah. Well, we were talking in the car a little bit. If you figure out what you want, so I want to be a grandpa. There's only so much I can do about that, right? So I
think you've done all you can.
That's my heart's desire. And so I'm not going to bug the kids about it. It'll happen when it happens or not. But when I'm a grandpa, I'm going to stay at home. I'm not going to speak. I'm not doing anything. I'm done. And so what we thought is, what if we do something now, knowing what you want and trusting that these things or some version of that will come to pass, that I could be around. So we hatched this idea of Dream Big. Like, why don't I bring 40 people at a time to me instead of me going to Cleveland and Buffalo and all that? So that's what we did. So we did the first one at our house. We called it actually a living room the first time. And we sent out a tweet. We said, next Thursday at 10 a.m., we got room for about 30 people in our living room, and you can come over. And so 10 a.m. came. In 4 minutes, we got 850 people.
Oh, my God.
So we got the 30 people came. And then a little bit later, we rented the House of Blues at Disneyland. And so we had everybody else just show up. And then in the breakout sessions, instead of having them there in the House of Blues, I just bought everybody tickets to Disneyland. And so if you wanted, Danielle Strickland is just amazing, and she works with the homeless. So she was on Main Street. Propaganda was in the castle. There was somebody, if you wanted to talk about your biggest fear, there was a speaker at the Haunted Mansion. And if you wanted to talk about your future, there was somebody at Tomorrowland. And I was on Tom Sawyer Island. And so we didn't ask for permission from Disney to do it. We just did it. And I think a lot of people are waiting for permission to go live their life.
Yeah.
And I think God says, just go make that rocket ship. Whatever it is, what are these deep, beautiful desires that you have, stuff that squares with Scripture, stuff that's going to last in your lives and work with other people's lives. But just do those things. And so Dream Big was time to get other people together to say, what have you been dreaming about? There's a woman that came, and she'd gotten her foot tangled up in a lawnmower 20 years before, and she's had 15 or 20 operations on this thing, and it just never worked. Her big dream, she wanted to learn how to dance. And so you know what she did 3 weeks before we got together? She cut her foot off. And she put a fiberglass one. She's like, I'm going to learn how to dance. And I have learned so much from the people that have come. So it gets back to people figuring out, what do you want?
Yep.
You have these beautiful ambitions that you just haven't gotten to. And so why haven't you gotten to them? What are the impediments?
Yeah.
You know, you had this thing that you wanted to do for the last 20 years. And so you ask somebody, can I do it? And this guy named Billy says no. And so you say, God, shut the door. I'm like, no, that is not what happened. Billy just said no. Billy probably ran over his cat on the way to work. He wasn't in a good mood. He said no. So don't think that that's a message from God.
Yeah.
And could he talk to you that way? Yes. He could land a ladybug on your nose. He could do all these other things. But I think he's given us these beautiful, pure desires, these things that square with the things that he loved. Hungry people, thirsty people, sick people, strange people, naked people, people in jail, widows and orphans out of James. So just find those things and then just chase them. And if badminton's your thing, well, just knock the feathers off that thing. Why don't we just chill out? What if he gave you your life to actually enjoy? But I wouldn't just stop at badminton. I'd knock the feathers off, and then I'd get busy doing some other things that would matter for people.
Helping other people find their dreams.
They help them knock the feathers off their stuff. And so that's happened a couple times where you find somebody else's big ambition. You say, how can I help you? One of the women that came, she's just delightful. Her name is Grace. And she has a beautiful story of just dealing with discrimination, growing up. But she's without guile. She's just this wonderful young gal, and her big ambition, she wanted to be a speaker, but she's never spoken anywhere. So I was speaking at this conference, and there's 3,000 pastors there the next weekend. So she didn't have like a reel. She didn't have some time when she's ever been on a camera so that she could do it. So I just walked out on stage holding hands with her. And I stepped out of the frame and I said, go do your thing. They'll never invite me back. But here's the deal. It doesn't matter. That beautiful, we can help other people get to their big ambitions. And those people that were there heard a much more poignant message than I could have ever given.
They saw one.
And we didn't make a big deal about it. We just that whole idea, just help find out what the ambitions. What a great question to ask your friends. What are you hoping for? And is there a way I can be helpful?
Yeah.
But the idea that when helping hurts, when we were going to land the plane out in the desert in Somalia, I was thinking at first we'd get a cargo plane, and like the action movies, we'd lower that down and we'd have these things on pallets, the food, because all the Al-Shabaab fighters are down below. We'd launch them out and they would parachute down, right? But then we were thinking about it a little more, and they'd probably land on somebody. That's like that book, When Helping Hurts.
Yeah. Literally.
That's when it literally hurts. So find a way to meet somebody else's need. And it could be your neighbor, it could be this gal, somebody's shoelace breaks. I mean, it would feel absurd, but they would have a story for a generation if you took off one of yours and just gave them a shoelace. So I'm not trying to be best friends or weird, or you don't need a restraining order. You need a shoelace.
You don't even need to know my name.
Totally.
It's a great day.
Yes. Or I could just give people your name. But that whole idea that love doesn't need a return address, and Jesus doesn't need one. He's his own return address. So every time that we try to say that I give all credit to Jesus, that's just beautiful, but that can be unspoken and mean just as much. It can be a hard attitude. But if your jam is to say that or to do cartwheels or whatever, whatever blows your hair back. But I would want to make sure that it's not distracting from the beautiful, pure message of the gospel. Because when we make it about us, it'll never be about him. So I'm asking myself all the time, am I making this about me right now, or am I making it about him? Part of that is in our faith experience is just figuring out what are you certain of and what are you just guessing about. So wouldn't that be a great exercise for you and the people listening in to say, what are you certain of and what are you just guessing about? So you can say I'm certain about Jesus. And some people would say, I'm just guessing about Jesus. But wherever you are, but just get real with it. I'm certain about it, or I'm guessing it about it. And then list all the things you're either certain about or guessing about. You can talk about, I'm certain I'm going to meet somebody in the future. If you're single and you're looking for somebody to do life with, I'm just certain about that. Or I'm just guessing I'm going to meet. And then if it changes columns, if it moves from I was certain about this thing, now I'm just guessing, a lot of people are walking around with a lot of anxiety. And you know why? It's because something jumped over from the I was certain about it, and then some circumstance happens, and now you're just guessing. And I'm not sure if I want my circumstances to push me around that way, right? Or if you were just guessing about something, and now you're absolutely certain about it, figure out why. Like, what happened? I'm not saying it in a pejorative sense, but just like actually, why are you certain about that? And no.
Yeah.
If we went through that, that would be such a beautiful exercise. You can say, I'm certain about the love of these 6 friends. I'm certain about, not things like death and taxes, but I'm certain about God's love for me. Like, that would be just such a revelation. Instead of just saying it, God loves me, to just say, it's got to go in this column or that column. I'm certain about it, or I'm just guessing. And if you're just guessing about it, don't put it in the wrong column. Say, I'm just guessing that God loves me. But if you know that you're just guessing about it, you'll actually know the difference between the two. And that's when we muddle them together, we don't know what we're certain about and what we're guessing about anymore. That's been a big kind of current events for me. Like literally, there's a sheet of paper, and I've got a long list. It's a short list of stuff I'm certain about. It's a really long list of stuff I'm guessing about. And Jesus never had problems with people that weren't certain. What he had problems with, people who were faking it. Mm-hmm. They had it in this column when it was actually in this column. Just get real with it. Mm-hmm. And then just ask Jesus, like, I want to move it from here to here. It's about 1.5 inches, but I just want to move it from here to here. And then all of a sudden, a house emerges. This is not like a rabbit out of a hat. Yeah. It's that I think these are promises that God had for me, and but I'm just guessing that they might be true for me. Yeah. So I don't know if for you guys, if the people listening, you could just say, if we could just get real with our faith and figure out actually where we are and what we want, then you'll know what to do next.
Man, I really love that idea of just the simplicity of creating a chart, of certain things and uncertain things. And I think it's funny how I could tell you for certain that there are things that are supposed to be in the certain column that sometimes aren't. And just to be clear and honest with God about that, I think is a really good exercise.
Yeah, I've learned a lot about being honest with God from some of our friends, including our friend Judy. I've just been in this season where I'm trying to be more honest with God. And if I'm actually angry at God, then I'm going to be angry at God. If I don't actually believe that God loves me in the moment, I'm going to say it to my friends and let them speak into that instead of just pretending like everything's all right.
It's good because that honesty allows us to live as we are, and I think God appreciates that. And so often we want to hide from Him. That's the fall coming into it, And
one of the things I've learned about Bob over the last few years is that his family life growing up was not perfect. I don't know the details about his family life, but from everything I've read, from his wife, Sweet Maria's book, to places I've seen Bob speak, is that his upbringing and his sibling life and his interaction with his parents are a lot like everyone else's. He had a broken family. And I think it's easy to look at someone like Bob and say, oh, obviously he's been handed everything in life, right?
Yeah, set up for success.
Grew up with, right? I'm sure he's just like his parents and he has a great family life. But in a lot of ways, him and Sweet Maria's story is that they've allowed God to enter into their lives. They've surrendered their life to God and allowed Him to turn them into the people that they are today.
Yeah, we talk a lot about this idea of listen, connect, and help. And what's really clear is that the abundant life, then one of the first clues is that we have to allow God to interact with us. We have to learn how to listen to what He's telling us in the midst of our situation, whether it's a tough family life or a tough financial situation or we've just gone through a heartache. We have to allow God into that, even though on the surface we might want to push Him away or blame Him.
So when we were in San Diego, before we actually met up with Bob Goff, you, Dylan, and I were sitting in a pizza shop. Do you remember this?
Yes.
And we're watching the news, and we learned about this guy who pressed the wrong button and sent all of Hawaii into a tailspin. People were hiding in manholes. Like, people legitimately thought a nuclear warhead was on its way to Hawaii. And we were just kind of staring at the news in shock. at this. And little did we know, the next day we would find out that Bob Goff actually offered this guy a full-time job.
Like within 24 hours, he reacted to it.
And I think this pretty much sums up how Bob lives. And this is clue 2 that we found of living the abundant life from Bob. And I really do think he wakes up every day and says, who am I going to love? And he actually tracks that person down.
Yeah, and it looks a lot like stepping towards people that are hard to love versus walking away from them, which, it's understandable to be angry at someone who pushes the wrong button and causes your whole state to go into turmoil. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, isn't it so much like Jesus to go after that person?
Yeah. This is something I am personally working on. And actually, last night, I read the first chapter of Bob's new book, Everybody Always, that comes out in April. And the first chapter is all about loving people who creep you out. Loving people who you know are wrong, right? Like the things they say are wrong, they think they're right, but those are the people we're called to step towards. And Bob talks about his struggle with that, but his resolve to step towards those people. And it really challenged me because there's a few people in my life who I'm stepping away from and not towards. But this is the second clue that we discovered from our time with Bob Goff, that the abundant life is about stepping towards people who are hard to love instead of walking away from them.
So we're going to jump back into the car with Bob and kind of finish out this adventure and come back for clue 3 at the very end.
Let's do it.
And then for ourselves, just if you had this practice of saying, I want to declutter my life enough that I could sort out what I'm actually hoping for, what do I actually want.
Yeah.
If you think of a chessboard, what if you guys did this for a week or two? Each day, take your big ambitions. This is kind of like dream big. So take your ambitions, and you might have many of them. You know how many pieces are on a chessboard? It's 32. So 16 aside. So say you have 16 ambitions. You just pick one of those and move them 1 square forward. But you have to take one and take it off the table. Like you literally one off the board, one move forward. And then just now the second day, you can either move that first ambition another square forward, or you can move a second one forward. Now the first one isn't going to move it ahead because you're moving the second one forward. And that would be a great picture. But you got to take a second piece, one of these ambitions. You're not throwing them away, but you're getting clarity onto saying, what is the thing that I really want? And it's like a cross between like checkers meets chess meets like Red Rover. What you want to do is you want to get your piece to the other side, get your ambition to the other side. And so one of the things is to figure out, what do you want? That Gowan book about McGowan book, Essentialism.
Yeah.
Like the whole idea that a priority is singular. And we talk about priorities. And you can only have a priority as the thing that's above all the other things. So to say, I kind of disagree with the premise. I'm a multitasker. I want to do many, many things. And that's not a bad thing. That's just how I'm wired. Maybe some of you guys are too. But what if I move one thing forward and I've taken one piece off? Within a week or two, you'll get a lot of clarity.
Yeah, this is what's really...
Literally.
This is what I value.
Yeah, these are the pieces I want to move across the board. And they all move differently. I don't know a ton about chess, but like the bishops, they move diagonally.
I was going to say,
right?
Do you try to win with a pawn every time?
Yeah,
for
the
fun?
horse that goes 2 forward and 1 to the side. That sounds a lot like
We
us.
sound like a bunch of pros.
Yeah. Yeah, but you don't have to be like Fisher to know how to do this. What you need to be is just so intent. And I'm a visual guy, so I literally have a chessboard, and I have pieces that are moving to the other side. There's no opponent in that. There's just there aren't 16 pieces on the other side trying to hop me. I'm just trying to figure out, what am I trying, of all the ambitions, what am I trying to move forward? What am I taking off? If you go to our office, right, there was a big board. It's 8 feet wide, it's 5 feet tall, and there's bloated with stickums. It's just a chessboard. It's just all the stickums of the stuff we want to do, and then we figure which ones are we moving forward, which one are we going to put to the side. We're getting visas into Afghanistan right now. So that was like a piece we want to move forward. And there'll be things that'll happen along the way or while we're there that'll shape the next steps. But we know that's a piece we want to move forward. And so you'll see that highlighted as one of the things. So all of the team at our office is looking at the board, and every morning we get together and say, do we need to move some pieces around? So something that used to be a priority is now a little bit lower, but to say, what are our fast ponies? What are the things we're trying to do? Yeah. Dream Big is about that.
Yeah.
Getting people together for a couple days, and then for the next 3 or 6 months, just talking about it. Once a month, just check in and say, so what do you want to do? This gal Grace went on to speak for Proverbs 31 and all that. She's this big, she just got engaged. Isn't that awesome? Met the man of her dreams. And it wasn't because she came to a couple days hanging out with me, but because we're friends, I know more about what's going on in her life.
Yeah.
And that helps me. That's my priority. I want to know a couple people a little bit deeper rather than a whole bunch of people. That whole idea of a mile wide and an inch thick, which is like awesome if it's frozen and you're Scott Hamilton, you're an ice skater. But if you're a high diver, not so much.
Yeah.
So figure out how did God wire you. They figure out what are the things that were the ambitions that you want to get in front of others, and importantly, clear the decks.
Yeah.
Get some of these other things to say, beautiful ambition that we're just not going to do it right now.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of great exercises for people to ponder and think through, like people who are going to be listening to this as they process kind of next steps for them. One of the things that we wanted to do with you, and we actually don't know where to go from here because we're not San Diegoans, and so you may have an idea. If not, we'll figure something out. We wanted to do this again and bury more hopes and dreams and come back in a year and dig them back up.
Oh,
It's
terrific.
sort of become our tradition.
Yeah.
We come
I
out to
like
San Diego
that.
every January and just
Yeah.
trust God for big
So
things.
where do you think we
Nice.
should bury the next one?
Man, well, my immediate
We can
thought
drive
was
somewhere. We
close
can.
by. Like I'd go over in the rocks over there. Or, I don't know, but whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like there's a pier. It'd be hard to bury something on a
It does not
pier.
have to be here. We actually only
Oh,
came
Sunset
here.
Cliffs is pretty awesome. It's just
Yeah.
down the way. We
Yeah.
could drive there. And Sunset Cliffs is this amazing place. Oh, you guys were
Yeah,
there.
yeah, that's where we actually
that-
first wrote these.
That's a great place to bury something.
Okay.
Let's hop in the car and let's head back over there, and then just spend a minute like praying with each other. And we'd love to invite you to bury dreams as well with us if you'd like.
Oh, you're awesome.
Just because it's something we want to make a tradition, and we want to trust God with big stuff.
Yeah.
Like beyond what we can. The main thing that we keep coming back to is just beyond what we could ask or imagine. We can
Yeah.
dream big, and I think we should, and we love doing it. But we also know that like Jesus wants to actually bless us more than we want to be blessed.
Yeah.
So, and we don't even know what that means. I didn't know what it meant this last year. And I wrote stuff down that he very
Yes.
specifically answered. But there's a lot more that in there that he's done in different ways. So, Sunset Cliffs, and we'll
do it.
keep the party going.
Done. Kaboom.
Let's not litter.
Yes. Don't lose
Should
that
keep
good-looking
this.
shovel of yours.
I still can't believe we found this that easy.
I can't believe it was only 4 inches beneath
In
the surface.
Florida, this would have sunk into the ground like
Oh,
20
serious?
Because it rains every day.
Oh, you're kidding me. I guess that's right, huh? Yeah, we've had a full 1/4 inch of rain in the last year. And then I moved down to San Diego to go surfing, and then evidently also enrolled in a university here. I didn't go very often.
Evidently.
But after a number of years, I got a degree from them. And but we lived down by the beach, and we just spent all of our time surfing and hanging out. It was a great time. And then it was later that I decided I was going to be a lawyer, and my parents thought I was nuts. But I went to school at University of San Diego, so I've just hung out like
Just
my
stayed
whole.
around.
Yeah, that's it.
3 bars.
All right, cool. So I wear this stupid Red Sox hat. I've never even gone to a Red Sox game. I don't even like baseball. But my neighbor, Carol, was a big Red Sox fan, and then she got cancer. And so she was going to go be with Jesus later in the week. And so we made a deal. And I said, I will wear your Red Sox hat and represent the Sox here for the rest of my life. But every time Jesus walks by you, you need to mention my name. Right? I read that verse in Matthew. It said, I knew you not. I'm like, Carol!
And we were basically surfing last night until the sun went completely
Really?
down.
Were you out
Just
here?
freezing our bones. We were in Encinitas.
This is actually, right here is where I got saved.
Really?
Not like Christian saved, like saved. I was surfing, and I got caught inside. There's a hurricane. big waves, and I caught one wave actually, and I wiped out. I was trying to paddle out through the waves for the next 2 hours and just couldn't make it out. Every wave's pushing me closer and closer to these rocks, and then finally a wave throws me into the rocks, and the board breaks, and man, I was just done. And there was a guy walking along the top of the cliff, and he saw what was happening to me, and he made his way down this 70-foot cliff, and he jumped in the water. That's where he saved me. Like that, literally, that's where I got saved. And I go to that point that we just passed every Christmas evening to thank God for a guy who didn't just stand at the top of the cliff and yell, John 3:16, it'll rock your life. He actually got in the water with me, and I think faith is like that. Like that idea. It's like getting in the water with people. And there's we went there, it was, I think 2 years ago. That was Christmas Day, and we went in the evening to watch the sunset. And as we were walking back to our motorcycles, somebody yells out, call 911. And there's a young guy that was on the edge of the cliff, and he got too close. He fell off the cliff. And because I'd seen how a guy made his way down that cliff to save me 30 years before, we knew how to get down the cliff. And for the next hour, we're giving this guy CPR and breathing for him. And when we got there, he was alive. And an hour later, when the firemen rappelled down, he was actually dead. And I felt so guilty. Like I was thinking maybe I should have breathed harder or pushed harder or something. And that whole idea that I don't want to fail trying, I don't want to fail watching. And if we got more people in their faith, just to say, I'm going to fail trying. Like, I don't want to just watch. I don't want to just stand on the side and disqualify myself because, like, I know I might fail, so I'm not going to try. Just, like, fail trying. And this kid actually has a mom who lives in the city I was speaking in. Yeah, you can go in here. He was, I was speaking there. She called me up, and she said, I saw that you were with my son when he passed, and she asked if we could get together. And so I was wondering what I could bring to her that would give her, or something I could say that'd give her some comfort. And then I remembered I had a picture of the sunset. And so we put that in a really modest frame and gave her that. And instead of talking about the big screw up that he made, because that's what was all over the news, this young kid that screwed up and messed around with his iPhone, we talked about the beauty that he saw. So if we could talk about that conversation in our churches, in our faith communities, talk about the beauty that people are seeing in their lives. So how's that working out for you? What's the beauty you've seen in the lives as you're at this conference? To ask people, that's actually a really neat thing. And not giving people a bunch of pointers about how to do it.
Man, that is a really tough story at the end of there.
Yeah.
But as Bob was telling us that story in the car, what really stuck out to me is what he said there, which is, I want to fail trying. I don't want to fail watching. And that really is clue 3 that we found in our time with Bob about living the abundant life. And it's that the abundant life feels a lot like stepping out into the unknown, into the places where we actually need God.
Yeah, because like earlier he said that comfortable people don't need Jesus. Desperate people do. Yeah.
And I was struck by how he did so well with this guy's parents, right? Like, I think about that. That would be my most desperate moment, is when the parent of someone that you tried to save their life, but they ended up passing, reaches out to you, right? Like, what do you say? There really isn't anything you can say. And in that moment, you need God, right? Like, you need God to come through for you in those moments and to use you in ways that you don't know what to do.
So there were a lot more things that Bob shared with us on the trip, and a lot more wisdom that we got. But we simply weren't able to fit it all into the podcast. And so we decided what we're going to do is deliver more content exclusively through our website. And if you go to
letslivealive.com, there'll be a spot on the website where you can actually put in your email, and you will be signed up for the exclusive content. So over the next few months, as we interview people and spend time in the studio, and when we have Jeremy and Dylan here, a lot more shenanigans will be happening. and you will receive exclusive content every month, like some more of these candid conversations we had with Bob.
Yep. So thanks for being a part of the Love Live community, and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Yep. See you soon.